My sister found out I gave her cheating ex a promotion at my company, so I sat her down and revealed the shocking truth. That silenced her forever, and nobody in my family saw it coming. My sister came to my office screaming. I let her scream. Because she was right. Every word. I had promoted Ryan. The man who had destroyed her. The man who had cheated on her for 8 months. The man she had cried over at my kitchen table. I had given him a raise. An office. A title. And I had done it knowing exactly who he was. What I had not told her. What I had not told anyone. Was why. And the why was the thing that silenced her. The why was the thing that ended us. The why was the thing I am still carrying. Every single day. Let me tell you what the why was. And what it cost. My name is Sarah. I own a marketing company. 12 employees. 8 years of building something from nothing. My sister Nina is 2 years younger than me. We had been close our entire lives. The specific closeness of two sisters who had survived a difficult childhood together. Who had chosen each other on the other side of it. Who had been each other's first call. For everything. For 30 years. Ryan joined my company 2 years ago. He was good at his job. Genuinely good. The kind of employee who makes everything around him better. Clients loved him. Colleagues respected him. Numbers improved every quarter he was there. I had been lucky to hire him. I had thought that for 18 months. Nina met him at a company event. I had watched it happen from across the room. The specific moment of two people finding each other. I had been happy for her. Ryan was a good man professionally. I had hoped he was a good man personally. He was not. They dated for 8 months. 8 months of Nina calling me. Telling me about him. The good things first. Then the concerns. Then the calls that came later at night. The calls that told me something was wrong before she said anything. I had listened. I had been present. I had been her sister. All the way through. She found out on a Thursday. A message she was not supposed to see. A woman she did not know. An explanation that took 3 hours and still did not make sense. She called me first. She always called me first. I drove to her apartment. I sat with her until 2 in the morning. I said everything a sister says. He was not worth it. She deserved better. This was his failure. Not hers. I meant every word. I also knew something she did not know. Something I had been sitting with for 3 days. Something that had arrived in my inbox on a Monday morning. 3 days before her Thursday call. An anonymous email. Sent to my company address. No name. Just information. Information about Ryan. And a woman named Claire. Who was not the woman Nina had found out about on Thursday. A different woman. Claire worked at a client company. The email said Ryan had been using our client relationship for personal access. That the relationship with Claire had started during a client meeting. That there were others. Not one woman. Multiple. The email had 3 attachments. I had opened all 3. I had sat at my desk for 40 minutes. And then I had made a decision. I had not told Nina. I had decided to investigate first. I had decided to verify the information before I said anything. I had told myself I was protecting her from unverified information. I told myself that for 3 days. And then she called me on Thursday. And I sat with her until 2 in the morning. And I said this was his failure, not hers. And I drove home. And I sat in my car in my driveway. And I understood that what I was actually protecting was not Nina. It was the investigation. It was the company. It was the specific professional calculation of a business owner who had received information about an employee and was managing it as a business problem rather than as her sister's life. I had put the company first. Not consciously. Not cruelly. But completely. The investigation took 4 weeks. I hired an external consultant. Quiet. Confidential. The findings confirmed the email. And added to it. Ryan had used company resources for personal purposes. Client relationships inappropriately leveraged. 2 formal complaints from client employees that had been directed to Ryan's personal email rather than company channels. Complaints he had managed privately. Buried. The consultant's report was 42 pages. I read all 42 pages. I sat with them for a week. And then I made the decision. The one I cannot explain in a way that fully makes sense. Even to myself. I promoted Ryan. I gave him a bigger role. More access. More authority. More salary. I told myself it was strategic. I told myself keeping him close meant keeping him visible. I told myself I was managing the situation. I told myself the promotion was a leash. Not a reward. I told myself a great many things. None of them were the complete truth. The complete truth was that I had a 42-page report. And a sister who did not know what was in it. And I chose the company. Again. A second time. More deliberately. Nina found out about the promotion from the company newsletter. I had not told her. I had not warned her. She received the newsletter the same morning as every other person on our professional mailing list. She read her ex-boyfriend's name. His new title. His new salary listed in the leadership announcement. She called me. I did not answer. She called again. I did not answer. She got in her car. She drove to my office. She walked past my assistant. She opened my office door. She was shaking. I had never seen her shake before. Not at the divorce. Not at the health scare. Not at the 2 a.m. calls. She was shaking now. She said, "Tell me this is a mistake." I said, "Sit down." She said, "Tell me this is a mistake." I said, "Nina. Sit down." She sat. She looked at me. And she said, "How long have you known?" Not what do you know. How long? She had already understood that I knew something. The how long told me she had been assembling it on the drive over. I said, "Since before you found out about him." The shaking got worse. She said, "You knew before Thursday." I said, "Yes." She said, "You sat with me until 2 a.m. I said, "Yes." She said, "You knew." I said, "Yes." She stood up. She walked to the window. She stood there for a long time. I waited. She said, "Tell me everything." I told her everything. The anonymous email. The Monday morning. The 3 days. The investigation. The 42 pages. The decision. The promotion. The reasons I had told myself. And then the true reason. The one underneath all the reasons. I said, "I put the company first. Both times. I am sorry." She turned around. She looked at me. Her expression was not anger. It had moved past anger. Into something that I did not have a name for. Something that contained every phone call. Every 2 a.m. Every "this was his failure, not yours." 30 years of first calls. And the understanding that for 4 weeks of those 30 years I had known something and had not told her. And had promoted the person who had done it. And had called it strategy. She said one sentence. She said, "I want you to understand that I am not angry about the promotion." I said, "Then what?" She said, "I am ending this because you sat with me while I cried and you knew. You had the information and you held it and you let me grieve something you had already understood completely. You made a business decision with my pain." She said, "That is not something I can come back from." She picked up her bag. She walked out. She did not slam the door. She closed it quietly. The quiet was worse than anything else she could have done. I sat in my office alone. The company newsletter still open on my computer. Ryan's name in bold. His new title. And I understood that the promotion had not been strategy. It had been avoidance. I had been avoiding the conversation. The one where I told Nina. The one where I became the person who had known for 4 weeks. The promotion had been the most expensive avoidance of my life. And I had paid for it. At my own office door. With a quiet close. That said everything. Part 2 is what the quiet costs. In specific and permanent ways. Ryan resigned the next morning. 7 a.m. email. Personal reasons. Effective immediately. I had expected it. He had understood the moment Nina walked past my assistant that the calculation had changed. He had understood before I did that the promotion had been the last move available to him. And it was gone. He sent the email at 7 a.m. and was done. No conversation. No acknowledgement. No reference to the 42 pages. Just personal reasons and effective immediately and gone. I sat at my desk and I read the email and I thought about the 42 pages. About Claire. About the client complaints. About the multiple. About a man who had been in my company for 2 years. And had used everything available to him. Including the fact that his girlfriend's sister was his boss. Including the fact that I would calculate before I acted. He had known I would calculate. He had been right. I had calculated. And my sister had paid the cost of the calculation. My mother called at 9 a.m. Nina had called her first. She'd always called my mother first when I was the problem. Usually I was not the problem. This time I was entirely the problem. My mother said, "Tell me what happened." I told her. All of it. The same way I had told Nina. Without softening. Without the version that made me more reasonable. The accurate version. Which was that I had known for 4 weeks. And had managed it as a business problem. And had promoted him. And had let my sister grieve in my kitchen without the information I had. My mother was quiet through all of it. When I finished, she said, "Sarah." Just my name. The way she said my name when she was choosing her words carefully. She said, "I need to ask you something." I said, "Okay." She said, "When you sat with her until 2 in the morning. When you said it was his failure, not hers. Did you believe that?" I said, "Yes." She said, "But you knew more than she did." I said, "Yes." She said, "So you comforted her with a partial truth?" I said, "Yes." She said, "I know why you did it. You were investigating. You wanted to verify. You did not want to give her unverified information." She said, "And all of that is true and is also not the complete story." I said, "What is the complete story?" She said, "The complete story is that you are very good at your company. And you are very good at managing things. And sometimes you manage things that should not be managed." She said, "Nina should not have been managed." She said, "She should have been called." My therapist said something similar. In less gentle language. She said, "You treated your sister like a stakeholder." I said, "What does that mean?" She said, "You received information. You assessed the risk. You created a strategy. You managed the communication timeline. You promoted the asset before addressing the liability." She said, "Those are business decisions. Applied to your sister's grief." I said, "I did not think of it that way." She said, "I know. That is the problem. You are so practiced at the business framework that you applied it automatically to a situation that required a completely different framework." She said, "What framework did it require?" I said, "Call her immediately." She said, "Yes." She said, "Monday morning." The moment the email arrived. Before the investigation. Before the consultant. Before any of it. She said, "Call your sister and say I received something this morning and I need to tell you about it and I do not know yet if it is verified, but you deserve to know first." She said, 4 words. "You deserve to know." She said, "Instead you gave her 4 weeks." 4 weeks. I counted them differently after that session. Not as investigation time. As time my sister had spent not knowing something I knew. Week 1. She had called me twice. To talk about Ryan. To process. To try to understand. I had listened. With a 42-page investigation running in the background. Week 2. She had asked me if I thought she had missed signs. I had said these things are hard to see from the inside. I had known exactly what the signs were. Week 3. She had started to move forward. Had made plans with friends. Had seemed lighter. Had called me to say she thought she was going to be okay. I had said she was going to be more than okay. Week 4. I had promoted him. And then she had received a newsletter. And driven to my office. And shaken. And I had told her everything. 3 weeks too late. My assistant Maria asked to speak to me at the end of the week. Maria had been with me for 5 years. She had seen Nina walk past her. She had heard enough through the office door to understand the shape of what had happened. She sat across from me. She said she needed to say something professionally. I said okay. She said, "I want you to know that I have a lot of respect for what you have built here. I have seen you make hard decisions well. I have seen you be fair and consistent and genuinely good at this." She said, "This was not one of those times." I said, "I know." She said, "The promotion confused everyone here. The timing felt wrong. People noticed." I said, "I understand." She said, "And now he is gone and everyone knows something happened and nobody knows what." I said, "I will address the team." She said, "I think you should." She stood up. She said, "I hope your sister is okay." She said it genuinely. The specific genuine of someone who has worked alongside a person long enough to know who matters to them. I said I hope so too. I addressed the team on Friday. Not the full story. The appropriate version. I said Ryan had resigned. I said the promotion had been a mistaken judgment on my part. I said I took responsibility for it. I said the company would be better managed going forward. I said I was available to anyone who had questions. 3 people came to me after. Not with questions. With the specific quiet support of people who had seen a leader admit something and were responding to the admission. I received it. I did not deflect it. I did not perform humility. I simply received it. Because it was the first honest thing I had done in 4 weeks. I sent Nina a letter at month 2. Not a message. A letter. Written over 6 days. Every decision named. Every week accounted for. The Monday morning. The calculation. The investigation I should have told her about. The promotion I should never have made. The 2 in the morning. The partial truths. All of it. Without the business language. Without the framework. In the language of a sister. Who had known and had not called. And was sorry. Not for knowing. For not calling. The moment the email arrived. The moment it mattered. She did not respond for 3 weeks. On day 22 she sent a message. It said, I read it. 3 words. Not I forgive you. Not we are okay. I read it. Because she had read it. And that was where we were. And where we were was honest. And honest was the only place worth building from. My mother called at month 3. She said Nina was doing better. She said Nina had started therapy. She said Nina had said the letter had helped. Not fixed. Helped. My mother said, she loves you. I said I knew. My mother said, she is very hurt. I said I knew. My mother said, she will come back to you. She said it with the certainty of a woman who had known both of us for 30 years. I said I hoped she was right. She said, I'm right. But it will take time. And the time is yours to give her. Without asking for anything in return. I said I understood. She said, the waiting is the apology. I wrote that down. The waiting is the apology. I put it on a note on my desk. Where I see it every morning. The company stabilized. The clients Ryan had been managing were reassigned carefully. The 2 complaints were addressed directly and professionally. The client relationships survived. Not without work, without the work I should have done 4 weeks earlier when the email arrived. Maria stayed. The team stayed. The company continued. Because companies are built to continue. They have structures and systems and redundancies. Sisters do not have redundancies. Sisters are the structure. And when the structure cracks, it takes longer to rebuild than any client relationship. Any team reassignment. Any 42-page report. I think about Monday morning sometimes. The specific Monday morning. The email arriving. The 3 attachments. The 40 minutes at my desk. And the decision I made. To investigate first. To verify first. To protect the company first. And I think about the Monday morning that was available instead. The one where I called her. Where I said I received something this morning and I do not know yet if it is verified, but you deserve to know first. That Monday morning was available. It cost nothing. It required only the decision to put her first. Before the company. Before the strategy. Before the calculation. Before the 42 pages. She deserved to be first. She had been my first call for 30 years. I had not been hers. When it mattered most. Here is what I know now. The people who love you have trusted you with their first call. For years. Maybe for 30 years. That trust is not a given. It is a choice they make. Every time they dial your number before anyone else's. Every time they choose your voice over every other voice available. They are choosing you. And when you receive information about their life. About their pain. About something that changes what they understand about their own story. You have one obligation. 1. Call them. Before the investigation. Before the strategy. Before the consultant. Before the calculation. Before anything. Call them. 4 words. You deserve to know. That is all it ever requires. 4 words. Said on Monday morning. When the email arrives. Before it becomes 4 weeks. Before it becomes a newsletter. Before it becomes a shaking woman at your office door. Before it becomes a quiet close. That says everything. And costs 30 years. To begin to repair. Call them first. Before the company. Before the strategy. Before the 42 pages. They gave you their first call for 30 years. Give them yours. When it matters most. On Monday morning. When the email arrives. And you know. And they deserve to know too. Call them. Before anything else. Call them.